My name is Daniel Smith, and I live with an anxiety disorder. I told Scott, my brother, that I thought my disorder was triggered when I lost my virginity. He scoffed at me, saying, "Jesus, Dan, maybe, but listen, it's not as if we were raised by Buddhist monks." He was right, I suppose. We were raised by two anxious parents who had two anxious children. However, contrary to popular belief, Buddhists can also be very anxious people. That's often why they become Buddhist monks in the first place. The purpose of the Buddhist practice is to tame the excess thoughts and emotions. Buddhists refer to these excess of emotions and thoughts as monkey mind. Buddhist practices are supposed to collar these monkeys of the mind. When I was nearly 20, my disorder already going strong, my mother, who ironically was a therapist, spoke to me about her experiences with this disorder. By this point, she was basically talking to herself. I had become my mother. It wasn't just genetics, it was the jolting movements, the curious fears, the subtle avoidances, the panic behind the eyes, the terror behind the hugs, and the tremor in the caresses. It was the monkey.
Hey, do you know where the travel section is?
Hey, do you need help with something?
No, I'm fine. I don't think anyone around here really likes me.
That's not true. I like you.
I'm pregnant. I just had to tell you. It's all I've ever wanted. I love my husband, and we have a lot in common, but I only married him because I want this baby. This is our little secret, okay? We can't tell anyone. But I do think we should celebrate, so do you want to come to a party with me later? Yeah, for sure.
Hey, are you okay? Hey, sit down. What happened? What's wrong?
I feel like I was forced. I don't even like Esther like that.
Did she rape you?
I still like her, and I want to hang out with her, but I don't know. I feel uncomfortable about this whole thing.
With Esther, the way you feel about her, what you're experiencing there is called counterphobia. You're fighting your phobias, your anxiety. You're reaching out and trying to find the enjoyment from doing things that would make you anxious. It makes you feel like you've accomplished something. Does that make sense?
For 6 months, all the activities that had once come naturally to me were as labor-intensive as if I were doing them in pudding. I couldn't study, I couldn't think, and I couldn't socialize. Then at the start of my senior year, something bizarre happened. I recovered. All I needed to do to reclaim my former self, it came to seem, was nothing at all. Time would do all the work on its own. People with chronic anxiety may recognize this episode of Peace Restored as a false ceasefire. Time is just a distraction to anxiety. You are just sleepwalking towards the edge of a cliff. I can point with great precision to the moment I fell off that cliff. It was the day my parents dropped me off at college. Everywhere I turned, hordes of 18-year-olds scurried around as if they were just thrown off the chains of some vicious bondage. They wore expressions wide with opportunity, of almost limitless choices, of restrictions lifted, slates clean, surveillance minimal. They were joyful and unhindered, electric and confident. The freedom afforded by college is unsettling and confusing, and deeply anxiety-provoking. If routine curbs anxiety, freedom incubates it. I did, however, manage to graduate. I was particularly anxious as I entered the real world. But Joanna's charm broke through all that. I don't know what possessed her to get close to me, but she did. She was like a living Xanax tablet. We started dating a few weeks after we met. Now that I was with her, the anxious me was the old me. There was nothing to tell her about my past. But then insecurity wormed its way into my subconscious. A cycle of self-doubt began. Step 1. Mounting uncertainty. Maybe I didn't love Joanna. Maybe I just needed emotional shelter. Maybe it was just lust. Step 2. Withdrawal. I became embarrassed of my anxiety and resentful when Joanna couldn't cure it anymore. Then I would put her down and make her feel like she was an awful burden to me. Step 3. I did everything I could to clean up my mess. You name it. Flowers, poetry, cooked meals, anything to win her back. 8 months later, she dumped me. I couldn't do anything without thinking of her. I decided to wait. I dug myself a trench and I sat in it. I waited for her to trust me again. I waited for her to see that it was possible for me to behave well, to not be an asshole, to be stable again, to love her again. She took me back after 4 months. I told her straight up, I will freak out again, and again, and again. My anxiety acts up now. I talk to friends who aren't Joanna, and I don't take it out on her anymore. I meditate, do breathing exercises, use Brian's methods of cognitive therapy. If all else fails, I use a trick Brian taught me. When I feel it all spinning out of control, I lift up my eyes, raise my hands above my head, and shout,
"Bring it on! Show me what you got!"
And then I laughed, because there's nothing. I have the power over my anxiety. There are many things to be worried about, but none of them existed particularly to torture me. I had been a fool.